So Patrick, do we describe this for everybody, Rob?
What?
You describe it. You describe it. What? I do enough talking.
Whatever. What?
I think any car's dead in iRacing. I think it's gone.
Oh, it's definitely. I agree. It's not going to survive much, but I still think we'll find opportunities to race it, just not as fruitful as before. Some of them just want to like make. What's the thing? Like that guy wanted to make like dolls out of Tyler's hair, but then there's just other guys who are just like. He did. He would say weird things to Tyler, man. Like he was a strange guy. And then like other guys would just show up and nowhere. He's like, "Oh, we never met you? Sure, come race this 24 with us." And then you just jump in the car and wreck us out in a lap and be like, "Okay, never see you again."
Yeah, that was
okay. Well, better luck next year, I guess.
That was the guy from.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome along to American Muscle Series. We're here for the Detroit Grand Prix, the wonderful, now defunct, actually, Belle Isle circuit. Still going strong on the simulator, of course, but, well, I'm a huge, huge fan of this racetrack, and to see 40-odd American muscle cars bounding around it is no doubt going to be very exciting indeed. I'm your sole flying commentator for this evening. Tom Dillon, Jesse Olsen is over on the production side of things. And well, what an exciting 40-minute race we have got ahead of us. It's 2.34 miles at this circuit. The weather is looking absolutely fine indeed. Looking at 64 degrees Fahrenheit. Clear conditions with the sky, and just some nice 2-mile-an-hour winds or so. Well, we're ready to get going here, and we're currently having a look at your championship leader in the Pro Division. It's Aaron Nam, of course, going along so nicely at the moment. And here is the championship. Here are the championship standings. I should say it's Aaron Nam in the lead of them, though I'm starting to think it's slightly incorrect, because on the American Muscle Series Season 4 website, it's telling me that Aaron Nam leads the way with 640 points from Scotty Banks in second with 606. It's Luis Enriquez in third with 592, with Keith Nelson Jr. In fourth, 583. We'll talk to Randall about that. That is indeed in fifth. That's on 548. And Aaron Nam's record, by the way, in this season is pretty remarkable. In the 9 rounds that we've had, of course, we've had a couple of those rounds have been had 2 races, but they're classed as each race classed as round on the website. Aaron Nam has only finished off the podium once. That was in round 3 at Brands Hatch, of course. And, well, he's only finished off at the top step of that podium in the times he's been on the podium once as well in round 5, finishing second. So incredible stuff from Aero Nom. And he's had a couple of Grand Slams as well, hasn't he, throughout the course of this season. Here he is, though, the Estonian, heading up through Sector 3 in his Belle Isle circuit. Waiting for his first lap time to come in, out through the right-hander. 2022 was the last time IndyCar and IMSA, of course, did that double-header weekend. Actually have raced here. They're moving, I think. The Belle Isle circuit no longer being used for either of those championships. In fact, used in the future. Here Aero Nom goes up through a couple of corners now. Quick right-hander, it's a little bit faster than it appears. Then up to the run, to the line. Should be totally flat in these Mustang cars. It's a bit of a sharp right as you go up to the line, and here he goes, Aero Nom. He's going to go presumably to the top of the timing sheets that was just flashed off my screen. There he goes, 140.2, fastest lap of the day so far. First lap of the day as well, of course, but it is the fastest lap regardless. So the 4 times being set right now. So Flori come in, actually he's 0.8 of a second faster than Luis Enriquez, sitting in second. So I suppose the big news as we head into the final sort of 3 rounds of this season. There's a couple more to come. I'm just trying to get up the schedule on my monitor to my left-hand side. You can see that actually we go from Belle Isle to Mosport next, then it's Sonoma, the Cup Historic, the final race of the season in 2 weeks' time. But right now, he's Keith Nelson Jr. Was often the championship protagonist alongside Aero Nom. That looks to have challenged, it seems to have evaded him slightly. He currently sits down in 4th position actually on 583 with the drop round, of course. And actually, we can show you the updated points. We don't drop rounds and nonsense like that. Let's have a look at this. This is how the points fly at the moment. Aero Nom is in 1st position on 640. Scotty Banks is in 2nd on 606. Luis Enriquez in 3rd on 592. Keith Nelson Jr. in 4th on 583. Matt Malone in 5th on 548. So it's not too tight at the top of the standings right now, because Aero Nom's raised a sharp consistency, just absolutely getting the better of everyone. By the way, he's gone 39.8 across the line. That's yet again the fastest lap of the day. We'll switch over then to the amateur points. And it's, well, it's not quite as close actually in these amateur standings, but you have got to bear in mind that the sort of the difference in points is effectively greater because of how they're sort of mixed in with the pros. So if you win in the amateurs, you will probably earn more than the 2 points that you'd regularly get compared to your 2nd place in the pros. But anyway, that's beside the point. I apologise to viewers who may be new to the series and don't quite understand how this point system works, but Dan Ott is in the lead of these standings on 425 points, with Chuck Lobano sitting in 2nd on 390, David Moore in 3rd on 352, Mike Thompson Jr. is in 4th on 334, with Jeff Andrest in 5th on 320. So those are really the championship challengers. I'd say top 2 really the ones who have a chance at all. Keith Nelson Jr. It's a huge slide and into the wall. That's going to waste one of his qualifying laps with just about 3 minutes to go in this session. Aero Nom sliding his way through past the Continental banners on the right-hand side. Welcome to everyone in the YouTube chat, by the way, if you do want to get involved with the number 6 car. Luis Enriquez up to the line. Can he take a stab into Aero Nom's time? He's in the pits. It looks like he can, but not effectively enough. 140.431, 3rd position at the moment for him. Here's Mike Thompson Jr. at the top at the moment of these amateur standings. That being said, Jeff Andres takes that pole position away from him, so actually looks like it's going to be a little bit of a fight into the last couple of corners he goes. Randall McGrew sets himself into second position, 140.5 for him. Up, wriggling through sector 3 goes Mike Thompson Jr. Sitting in that 4th spot at the moment in those amateur standings. See what he can do. Was a purple mini sector crossing the line. Mike Thompson Jr. and it is going to be pole position in the amateurs. 2 minutes to go in the session. 141.0. Jeff Andres is into the pits. He won't be setting in a lap of time. Neither will most of these cars. So right now, Matthew Thompson, I should say, in 20th position is the next real challenge for Mike Thompson Jr. At the top of those standings. Chuck Labano as well, who sits second in that championship, is trying to keep his eye on the prize. Dan Ott, by the way, leads those standings, of course. He sits down in 18th at the moment. This is Jay Bast. Often on the outskirts of this championship. Jay Bast not really able to pierce the top at the moment. Currently sitting in 7th position in the standings, yet to find himself on the podium. And he comes into the pits. That's his qualifying session over. So 8th position it will be for Jay Bast. That being said about Jay Bast, always finishing in the top 15, I should say. He's never finished outside of that so far this season. Thompson then. Latterman with a chance of this amateur pole position, and he's well and truly off the mark at the moment. Yellow all around on his final lap of the day as he comes up to the line. It's a 1:48.7, which is not going to, well, be on a supercarts grid, let alone this one. It's not an ideal lap for Matt Thompson. Obviously making a mistake. Here's Jeff Dunnington. As we get up to that checkered flag, it might give him a couple of seconds of leeway. It won't. He won't be able to finish that lap time, and he has to start in 20th. Here is the grid then. Aero Nam is on pole position. Randall McGrew starts in 2nd. Louis Enriquez in 3rd, with Keith Nelson Jr. in 4th. Scotty Banks starts 5th, with Jeff Robichaud alongside him in 6th. Phil Keck and Jay Bast 7th and 8th. The amateur class leader is a pole position sitter, I should say, is Mike Thompson Jr. with Jeff Andres in 10th. Dustin Arliss starts 11th with David Moore in 12th. Edgar Sanchez and Charles Hosier are on the next row. Mike Nickham and Jeff Besnard 15th and 16th, and it's Gazenda and Ott 17th and 18th. Schultes and Matthew Thompson round out the top 20. Then it's Chuck Labano and David Clymer 21st and 22nd. David Blair 23rd and 24th is Jay Little. Then it's Ken Eштep, Stefan Price, Martin Bork, Scott Brooks, Jeff Dunnington, Nick Batista, Ryan Bevel, Eric Snook, and finally Chris Logan rounding out the grid. Only 33 starters for this race this evening, but that is plenty around Belle Isle. As it's the anxious wait for the lights, and then a 40-minute race ahead of us. With a live steward in force, of course, so keep an eye on the messages at the top of your screen. So as we go to the lights, it's Aero Nam, centre of your frame, Randall McGrew on the inside.
Green.
It's lights out and away we go into Detroit, and Randall McGrew gets a very good start, not as good as Aero Nam, though. That being said, into the latter phases of the getaway, Aero Nam under a bit of pressure from Randall McGrew. There goes Scotty Banks down the inside of Keith Nelson Jr. trying to make a position, not quite able to do so just yet. Mike Thompson Jr. going around the outside of Jess Ardress, who was able to jump him at the start momentarily there, but back into the lead of the amateurs is Mike Thompson Jr. Now Scotty Banks further applying pressure to Keith Nelson Jr. Not quite able to get through into this right-hander though, and has to stay behind for the time being. Keith Nelson Jr. sets his sights on Luis Enriquez in 3rd position, and of course on that podium position, Dan Ott here, championship leader in the amateurs, is trying to see what he can do in this early stage of the running. It looks like there's been a crash further back, and it is. There's 3, 4, 5 cars off of the road. It looks like it might have been a bit of a gingerly affair. Mike Nickham is into the pits and presumably out of the race after that, as they go through this very wide back straight. Aero Nam, who leads Randall McGrew from Luis Enriquez. McGrew with a spectacular start, actually. Looking back on the YouTube screen, was a 6, 7, in fact 8 car pileup probably. For the starting, essentially, he's got past Jeff Besnard. Here is what happened then. To concede, my replay is again not working, but wide up involving Scott Brooks to finally get a shot of it. Scott Brooks goes around, got collected by a few more people. Anyway, Luis Enriquez sits in 3rd at the moment, being dropped slightly by Randall McGrew and Aero Nam, 7/10 of a second up to Randall McGrew. Keith Nelson Jr. will be setting his sights on this podium position. Here he goes, he's got a little bit of run out of that first corner. Can he get to the inside at any opportunity? He's going to try and show his nose, but I think then just backs out of the move. They have to brake so early. These cars don't really want to risk taking someone out this early on into a 40-minute race. Settling in at the moment of Randall McGrew. Aaron Orr makes a mistake and then allows that Randall McGrew to take the lead of an American Muscle Series race. That is quite incredible. Nam under further pressure. I think he's made a real mistake there, Aaron Nam, down into 4th position. He's got all of a recovery drive to do, and Randall McGrew has got a 2nd at the lead of the race. Here goes Scotty Banks trying to attack Aaron Nam now down into the hairpin. There's no doing for him just yet, but Randall McGrew leads. That is spectacular. I think there's some damage on that number 1 car. Here is the 67 in the lead of the race, and by quite the margin at the moment. Aero Nam has got such a task ahead of him now to get back past these cars, and he's looking very, very slow indeed. Is there some damage on his car is the question. Scotty Banks now looking to the inside, down into turn 1. He's going to have to find the run, and if he gets the run in 1:40.9, fastest lap for Randall McGrew, almost making contact is Scotty Banks with Aero. No, I don't think Aero saw him coming, and just about able to hold on to that 4th position. A good run from Scotty Banks though. Here he goes down into turn 3. Can he get to the outside? Aero Nam's going to go very defensive indeed. Scotty Banks with a superb run down the straight though. Jeff Robichaud will try and follow him through. Who breaks later is going to be Aero Nam, and he holds on to 4th position by the skin of his teeth. Incident between the 129 and the 148 is under investigation from race control. Here's what happened to Aero Nam, and he had a tank slapper, didn't hit the wall. Most importantly, able to keep that car undamaged. However, he's definitely struggling a little bit just to swallow his pride slightly. Lower than 8th. It's a pole sitter looking for his 5th in a row. Able to do so just against the series champion as well. Tap the wall further back. The cars in this little leading train. Enriquez is chasing down Randall McGrew. He senses maybe this is his chance at a race with Scotty Banks, by the way. He's on the 2nd position in the championship. No further action on the 129 and 148 incident. Meanwhile, we should mention Logan Ott, Nickham and Besnard all appear to be out of the race. They're certainly into the pits. Whether that will be them calling it time, we're not too sure. Meanwhile, David Blair has got past Snook for 28th position. But of course, pressingly, if Dan Ortiz out of this race, then that is him not scoring and presumably having to take a drop round here. Scotty Banks with a huge lock-up as he looks to attack Aero Nam. Now Martin Borg trying to get into 24th position on Nick Batista. And he's going to just about do it. Can he cut him off? He can chop him off, but Nick Batista will fancy another look. Not quite going to materialise for him. They're not leading those standings then by 35 points at the moment. Down in 10th position. Thompson should, I believe. In fact, I'm not even going to try and work it out. It's Charles Hissey. Usually it ends badly when I try to do maths on one of these streams. That is a nasty, nasty hit for Charles O'Hare, my word. Locks on the rears, I think. Hit the barrier on the left-hand side. Then the car pops up on him. And he was a passenger at that point. Pretty much. Aero Nam, by the way. Fastest lap of the race. Now 7 tenths of a second back to Scotty Banks. He's on a mission. 1.2 seconds of the gap between himself and Keith Nelson, who is chasing down Louis Enriquez at this stage in the race. Into the pits comes Charles Ozia to repair that damage. It's obviously a little bit too much for him to leave where it is. We see Keith Nelson Jr. being chased down by Aero Nam, but also doing the chasing of Louis Enriquez. Brandon Brew is holding on to this race lead rather nicely indeed, I should mention. We're on lap 5 of this race, a 40-minute race. Joe Bats just got past Jeff Robichaux. In the meantime, Matter with Phil Kett getting involved as well. He's trying to attack Robichaux, but not quite able to find anything. A reminder as we approach quarter distance this race that actually competing for a trophy which is high quality and it's 3D printed. It's provided by the Simpit, a website, a video show and a community built for sim racers to find information about our hobby. The ultimate purpose of the Simpit is to make sim races faster and more informed. You search for Simpit on YouTube or check out their website www.thesimpit.com. You should be able to see the trophy on your screen. There's Louis Enriquez. You can see the back of Keith Nelson Jr.'s car as he was able to make that move as I was doing a little ad read just then. Finds himself up into 2nd position. Here is a replay of that move. It was a slightly poor exit from Enriquez, and as easy of a pass as Keith Nelson Jr. is ever going to make in the American Muscle Series. These cars don't stop very well. It should be mentioned, so it's not quite as regulation as you think it would be. Here's Aero Nam having caught up to Louis Enriquez then, and now Keith Nelson and Randall McGrew have got to work together to make sure they keep this charging bull of Aero Nam behind them for the time being. It's not to build up that gap. Particularly easy for them. Nam already taking the tighter line. Trying to find whatever little bit of pace he can. I think he might have tapped the ball there for a second. Louis Enriquez. In to Detroit Grand Prix as is called, the Detroit Grand Prix circuit, I should say. 40-minute race around this wonderful Belle Isle racetrack. Right now we have got 6 retirements from the race. So it's Ian Snook, Logan Ott, Nickham and Besnard. Not official retirements just yet, but they have been in the pits the last 5 minutes, most of them. I believe battle pairs have been removed at this stage of the season. They indeed have. Looking here at about a 23 lap race, 24 most likely. We're looking at battle between Thompson Jr. and Dustin Arlis. This is inter-class battle. They're fighting for the same points, of course. They just get classified into different championships. Should we mention Dan Ott, the current leader of those standings, currently in 12th championship. So, yeah, good job actually. Take the brand of the group. Group, by the way, having flashes of brilliance, which is 4 stars of the season has taken him out of running, really. He's leading this race, then he doesn't choose his fourth up, so he can be vying for his second of the season. Such an appearance for a form, by the way, from Pete Nelson Jr. Second places, 3 straight places, then 2 further second place and a third place last time. Now back to the leading train we go. Aero Nam still yet to find a way past Louis Enriquez, and Scotty Banks yet to find a way past Aero Nam. It's all formation flying at the moment. Pete Nelson Jr. looking very racy though to take this race win away from the random group. Dan Ott, by the way, has finished his lengthy prepare and is going to re-emerge onto the racetrack. So keep an eye on the amateur class championship leaders' progress throughout this race. Here goes Aero Nam, looking to get to a podium position, and he is able to get past Louis Enriquez. Now it's all about making sure he's ahead by the braking zone, able to chop back across the number 6 car, which he does. Third position goes the Estonian. He's trying to make up for lost ground. If you're just joining us and wondering why on earth is Aero Nam not in the lead of the race, as he has of course in the previous 4. And by the way, before that, had won 3 from 4. Made a slight mistake earlier on into the race that just lost him 4 or 5 positions. At the moment though, here is Pete Nelson Jr. needs to put cars in between himself and Aero Nam. Right now, Randall McGrew is driving a very, very wide Mustang indeed. Just now to the pits. Maybe a slightly early pit stop at this stage of the race, and now here goes Keith Nelson Jr. to the lead of the race. Around the outside, he looks at Randall McGrew. It won't be an easy pass for him. McGrew holds the inside and holds the position as well. Right forced out. Almost onto the grass is Keith Nelson Jr. as here goes McGrew once more, trying to hold on to the lead of this race that he's fought so hard for, and it looks like it's exactly what he's done. Still holding that inside line. But it's allowed Aero Nam to catch up, almost a full sector of side-by-side action. Plays into the hands of the chasing pack. In hindsight, these guys shouldn't have been so racy in regards to each other. That being said, he's also sort of playing into their hands, just backing up Aero Nam into Louis Enriquez. He's not quite able to make that pass on Pete Nelson Jr. just yet. Usually, they're pretty similar on pace. And Nelson right now might be pretty big no. straight they went for yet another time, and still no doing. Keith Nelson Jr. has to stay behind Randall McGrew, but they have got the pace on Aero Nam. There was a slight mistake from your race leader. No harm done though. They go past the lake on the right hand side, left hand side now of your picture. The driver's right, regardless. Wonderful lake that we are racing around. Circuit Aero Nam is really on the back of Keith Nelson Jr. now, and I don't see Randall McGrew, with respect to Randall, holding on to and attacking Aero Nam. This is side-by-side action. Jeff Robichaud has got past the number 53 car of Jay Bast. And I think Jay has got a little bit of suspension damage because he's really squirming along in that car. Must have hit the wall. Look at how difficult of a time it looks like in that car at the moment, actually. I can't tell if he's crabbing or there's just bumps on the circuit. Slight whatever's happening, however, Jeff Robichaud is able to pull quite a sizable gap on them. Keith Nelson Jr. through turn 1. It's for a better exit than Randall McGrew, that he gets it all crossed up out of the second part of the corner. Now he looks for round 2 with Randall McGrew, but not any doing yet. Maybe some side-by-side action. They have to be tentative and careful of when they do go side-by-side, because Aero Nam is there, lurking and ready to make whatever he can of it. It's like pumping the brakes as they go down into the next set of corners. Crew is starting to pull away ever so slightly, to the point that Nelson now has to look in his rear-view mirror. There's a whole lot of Aero Nam down his neck. It's Pro Class, by the way, and the wonderful battling that happens throughout it is brought to you by Gunfire Games, who are the developers of the newly announced video game Remnant 2. If you want more information on Remnant 2, you can visit www.remnantgame.com. And of course, you can also go and play Remnant 1, which was also released last season. Thank you to them and all the other sponsors for the support on this ever-growing and flourishing series. Many of our retirements, by the way, have come out of the pits, so weren't quite able to continue on. Were quite able to continue on, I should say. Those were those 6 came into the pits, just lengthy repairs then. Knowing that if they keep circulating, they'll get at least some points, and we'd hope for something happening further ahead, but our eyes remain glued to this incredible train of cars at the moment, headed by Randall McGrew. A chance to notch up his first win of the season. In fact, his first win of his AMS career. This is something that happened to Dan Ott in the 129 car. Championship leader in the amateur category. Huge crunch of carbon fibre, and pulls off to the side of the road. That's his day done. It's huge for the amateur class championship standings. We're championship defining moment over there. He currently leads that championship by just about 30 points, but no points scored here for him. You have to look at the guys behind him, namely Chuck Lobano. Their chance to make up some points at Belle Isle. Here goes Keith Nelson Jr. He's so close to Randall McGrew. He's bumping him down the straight and now goes to the outside, trying to pull alongside. McGrew has to go defensive. Has he gone too defensive too early? No. The switchback not quite materialising for Keith Nelson Jr., who now looks to the inside once more, just showing his nose, being clever. But McGrew holds on to the position, proving very, very difficult to overtake at a street circuit like this one. Measured drive at the moment from Randall McGrew, but you do get slightly concerned when he's defending that aggressively. Here goes Chuck Lobano, knowing that with Dan Ott out of this race, he's going to have a huge chance to get a nice haul of points onto the board. And now he attacks Matthew Gazenda for 13th position. A reminder that if you are new to this series, it does not matter that these two guys have got different points, or in different classes, I should say. Score the same points. Back to the battle for the lead of the race as Chris Logan says that he's pitting in. So perhaps one of our first real green flag pit stops about halfway through the race, potentially. Now goes Keith Nelson Jr. to the inside. Shows his nose and tries to make the pass, but again, nothing materialises. Getting impatient now. Here are your pit stops for you. No stops for the front runners just yet. Mike Thompson is into the pits. Now here goes Keith Nelson trying to force one down the inside. He's not quite able to find the pass just yet. McGrew holds on once more. He's onto the grass. And still, Keith Nelson Jr. stays behind and is not able to find anything. There's yet another crunch of carbon fibre, puff of smoke as they make a little bit of contact, I think. Winner of this race gets 80 points and everyone else gets 2 points less, down to 0 points. That's pressing for this amateur class battle that mainly Chuck Lobano trying to get 35 points more than Dan Ott. By my reckoning, it should be just around 34 points at the moment. Let me bring out the calculator, which is a bad idea if you followed the series last season. Never mind the calculator, because Randall McGrew looks like he's made a mistake, and now Keith Nelson Jr. looks to the inside once more. Surely the lead of the race for Keith Nelson Jr., and indeed it will be the lead of the race. It's been a masterclass of overtaking as here goes Randall McGrew into the wall once more. Nelson Jr. waited for his opportunity, and now Aero Norm looks to slip his way through back into second position. Randall McGrew with it all to do. And he loses out on not only the lead of the race, but a chance to get back to the lead of the race. His third position goes Randall McGrew. Has he got some damage on that car now? As under pressure he comes from Louis Enrique. Scotty Banks is trying to get involved as well. He looks to the outside line. Is he going to throw one down the inside? No, not quite. I have Chuck Lobano scoring about 56 points, give or take 2 or 3. Keith Nelson Jr. then is in the lead of the race. Welcome James Barker to the YouTube chat. Says Matty Malone, we miss you this week. Hope you're getting some sleep with that newborn. Congratulations. Congratulations indeed, Matt, from everyone at Slow Motion Broadcasting. Know that they've got a newborn. Congratulations indeed. Take something very important to drive someone like Matt Malone away from the American Muscle Series. And I think that is just around the importance. It's Justin Arliss. Down into turn 1 he went. As he made a mistake on the exit of the corner. It's understitch straight into the wall on the left-hand side as well. And that was the end of that. End of Justin Arliss' race. Out he goes. Logan is out as well, as is Snook. Randall McGrew jumps early and goes into pit lane. 18 laps we were expecting on the fuel window. So maybe this is a chance for Randall McGrew to get a little bit of damage repaired as well. That unleashes Aero Knob to, without pressure from behind, try and attack Keith Nelson Jr. for the lead of this race. Here's a replay. Something that happens to Eric Snob. Probably the reason he's out of the race is, I'm afraid to say, I can't see it on my screen, so we'll go to the YouTube chat for a moment. Hello to Hannibal Moore, one of our regulars on the AMS streams. And baby Bjorn in the racing rig wasn't quite improving this week. We'll see about next week. I'm sure Matt Malone will find a way to justify having a newborn alongside him. Get him starting in some crew chief careers early on. Scotty Banks then looks to attack Luis Enriquez. In fact, both Luis Enriquez and Scotty Banks go into the pits. So lap 17 is the time that they choose to do it. I'm sure these guys that lead the race will be trying to hold out for as long as they can. Randall McGrew's trying to get past Chuck Labano. This isn't ideal at all. Labano into 10th position. Down the inside goes Randall McGrew. There is no doing for him just yet. Into the pits goes Matt Gazenda. McGrew stays out, now trying to attack Labano once more. Obviously, Randall McGrew has stopped at the moment, so this is not helping him at all. And to be honest with you, I think he'll be a little bit frustrated that Chuck Labano isn't letting him through. As you see, there is Scotty Banks out of the pits ahead of Randall McGrew in 2.9 seconds down the road on Luis Enriquez. McGrew gets through as, in fairness to Chuck Labano, he does let Randall McGrew through. It almost goes into the wall down at that corner. I've done that a few times in LMP2 on R Factor. But I should mention as well that there is no obligation for McGrew to be let through there by Chuck Labano. It was just sort of the quote-unquote sporting thing to do. Hannibal asks what is going on with Aero Knob, not in the lead of this race, as there goes Randall McGrew now trying to get past Scotty Banks. Warm tyres for the former race leader. And 7th position as well for his troubles. Will be a net 4th, I believe. The pit stops cycle on through. Expects race leader into the pits, and we do get race leader Keith Nelson Jr. into the pits. Aero Knob's not in the lead of this race because he made a mistake in the first couple of laps. Almost went into the wall, just about avoided that. Robert Sharon Bast also into the pits, by the way. And unleashes Aero Knob to try and have a lap to get his lead back. Here's Edgar Sancinelli, current Challenger class champion. Of course, that hasn't carried over into this season 4. It's a difficult time in the pro class. It's a difficult time. It hasn't quite been the heights that he was used to in the Challengers. I'm assuming that my replay was glitching once more. It was pretty much more of the same, unfortunately, for Edgar Sancinelli. Not an ideal situation for him, is it? I was saying this earlier in the season, actually, when we had Alex on. That, it was a spin for Edgar. Couldn't quite save it. But he's not quite, and this is meant, from an objective standpoint, he's not quite got the pace to compete with the top of the pro class, but he's pretty much faster than most of the amateurs, so really he benefited from the intermediate class sort of being there. It will be frustrating for him to be sat not really battling for anything. It is what it is. He hasn't had a bad season by any stretch of the imagination. Here comes Aero Knob into the pits. And it's a big moment in the race as you see the graveyard of cars. as well as Scott Brooks out of the pits. We look at Luis Enriquez, who has actually got out ahead of Keith Nelson Jr. That is something that I didn't notice. Is he going to get out ahead of Aaron Arm? This is huge, actually. How has Luis Enriquez made up 2.6 seconds on Keith Nelson in the pit stop phases? Does he get out ahead of Aaron Arm, who's at pit exit right now? And the answer appears to be no. I do not know what Aaron Arm does in these pit stop phases, but every single week he seems to gain multiple seconds on his rivals. And to gain 2 seconds on the guy that has gained 2 seconds on everyone else, it's unbelievable. It's about 2 seconds, by the way, to take tyres. So presumably, Luis Enriquez just didn't take tyres. Randall McCrew into the wall as he's been passed again by Scotty Banks. And as his race win prospects have got away from him in the last 8 minutes of this race. Well, in fact, they got away from him much earlier than that, but as they continue to fall further out of his grasp. Just starts to drive a very beat-up Mustang. Here's Jay Bassett then, looking for 6th position on Jeff Robichaux. There's a great deal of pace at the moment, Jay Bast, but an opportunity to find himself getting through. In fact, he's fallen by the wayside a little bit. Here's Keith Nelson Jr. sitting in 3rd position. As you mentioned, by the way, that if Aaron Arm does go on to win this, his closest competitor, Scotty Banks, in the championship finishes in 4th. It is, you know, one hand on the trophy virtually. It isn't already. It's 34 points between the two cars. You know, all Aaron Arm really has to do is have a decent barber next time. Not a barber, I apologise. I'm sure he's got a very decent barber, actually. Aaron Arm. I apologise, that was a horrible joke. As Nick Batista had an issue in the pit stop phases. And unfortunately, I believe is disconnected from the session. Dustin Arliss has disconnected himself. But at Mosport, I was trying to say, you know, every time Mosport Park, of course. We were at 2:30 in the morning trying to get myself an opposite accidental partridge, clearly. But no, anyway, if he has a decent Mosport, I think Aaron Arm will win this championship. I will have to get confirmation on what the Cup historic Sonoma is. I'm assuming it's a championship round, but I'm not too sure. Unless it is literally just a layout of Sonoma. But anyway, I'll ask Randall for confirmation on that. Here's Scotty Banks then, looking for a podium position. And to at least savour a little bit of a championship challenge. Down the inside he goes, and Nelson Jr. holds on for the time being. 5 minutes to go. Hannibal says Mr. Barrier is tearing up Mustangs left and right today. As Scotty Banks goes back to the outside. Looks for a wonderful swoop on Keith Nelson Jr. Almost pulls it off, and in fact, I think he might just do exactly that. Has the inside for the next corner. Going to the outside line, he says thank you very much, does not bother me, but now comes the switchback from Keith Nelson Jr. Around the outside he goes. Anything you can do, I can do better is the call from Keith Nelson Jr., but it's not quite come to fruition as Scotty Banks holds on to that podium position. Still under pressure though, the 4th place man in this championship. How on earth Keith Nelson Jr. is in 4th place, by the way? No idea. finishing on the podium in every round but 2. So we go into the final 3 laps of this race, most likely. Scotty Banks just gaining on Aeronom so slightly. Not Aeronom, gaining on Keith Nelson Jr. as onto the grass he went for a moment. Here is your race leader then. And here is your chaser at the moment. 3.6 seconds between the two of them. And you just have to think that if today can't stop Aerodom and gets another fastest lap of the race, by the way, fastest lap points or whatever. You just think if today isn't enough to stop him, what is? Out of the 9 rounds we have raced, he's won 7 of them. It's races, by the way, not necessarily rounds, because we have the 220s. Out of the, 9 rounds, the 9 races we have had, Aerodom has won 7. And that kind of domination. It's not long before he sweeps the entire series. Sweeps the entire season, I should say. He's getting closer every single season. Then actually, I'd slightly take that back. So 9 rounds is correct, yes. Not sure how the points, they must be scored overall for the 2 20-minute races. Here, acclimatise this new spreadsheet that I've been given. But yes, out of the 9 rounds, I apologise. It is 7 wins for Aerodom. He really has excelled as we head up into the last minute and a half or so. Have been those 60-minute rounds really, which is serving me correctly. He's won pretty much all of them, getting an extra few points. Those extra few points in those rounds. David Clymer looks for one more position in this race, and it's Matt Gazenda that he's trying to attack. As we switch back to Keith Nelson Jr., maybe looking for one last roll of the dice at this podium. Aerodom is heading around the final corner now. He's going to get another lap in, I'm sure. You can see on your track map on the right-hand side of your screen. Here is Keith Nelson Jr. on board. One final chance for the podium then. Is it going to be Keith Nelson Jr.'s day? It wasn't in terms of the race wins as Aerodom crosses the line to start his final lap. White flag flying on the gantry. And it looks like that Keith Nelson Jr. just not quite able to find his way through. I should mention we've already played the green, by the way. The clip with Royal Smitiy do sponsor the amateur division, which is about to be won by Mike Thompson Jr. It's brought to you by the son, actually, from Barno, and his Twitch channel, Royal Smitiy. Go show some support, give him a follow at twitch.tv/Royal Smitiy. But anyway, we focus back on the race after thanking them for their support to this series. As Randall McGrew now looks for 4th position. Aerodom is heading up to the Sector 2 timing beam. As Randall McGrew trying to sense an opportunity on Keith Nelson Jr. wherever he can to try and savour those little few extra points. Here he goes to the inside line. Randall McGrew, in fact, it's going to be the outside line for the left-hander, and there's not quite enough room on that occasion. Aero Nam is about to win the race. He's heading through the final 2 corners now. If we get a shot of that, that would be brilliant to sing him across the line. And here he is, out of that final corner. Aero Nam to make it 5 race wins in a row in the American Muscle Series. Crossing the line in the most exceptional of circumstances. He wins in what was the least dominant display I have ever seen from him. Enriquez and Banks round out the podium, with Keith Nelson Jr. in 4th and Randall McGrew rounding out that top 5. Jeff Robichaux finishes in 6th, with Bastian 7th. Phil Keck will come out to that final corner to finish in 8th. Mike Thompson Jr. in 9th, David Moore 10th, and Chuck Lobano taking the championship lead, by the way, in 11th position. He just got a couple more corners to go. Amateur class championship lead should be going the way of Chuck Lobano, if I'm not mistaken. Our retirements from this race have been Chris Schultes, Dustin Arliss, Logan Ott and Snook. Lobano crosses that line. Thompson will follow him through. Esca Sanchez finishes 15th. And everyone else just filtering on through. We'll get your race results in a moment's time, then start to talk to 2 race winners of Mike Thompson Jr. and Aero Nam. It's not too late for Aero Nam. It's back to the daylight saving time for the last couple of weeks. Blair, Brooks and Price, the next 3 across the line. In fact, Brooks is under a little bit of pressure from Stefan Price for 19th position. Price falling back a little bit. I think he's got some damage on that Mustang. And he does. Look at the dip on the left-hand side. Rather frustratingly crawling that across the line. We do indeed have our race, 43 minutes in total. Here are your results then for race 10 of the American Muscle Series Season 4 Championship. Aero Nam wins the race after really making a mistake earlier on. Eventually, his pace reigned supreme. 4.5 seconds ahead of Louis Enriquez in 2nd. Scotty Banks rounds out your podium, with Keith Nelson Jr. in 4th. Brandon McGrew rounds out the top 5 after leading much of this race. Jeff Robichaux finishes in 6th for Wild Voodoo Motorsports, with Jay Bastian 7th. Phil Keck in 8th. Mike Thompson Jr. wins in the amateurs, with David Moore rounding out the top 10. Chuck Lobano takes the amateur class championship lead in 11th. Matthew Gazenda is in 12th, with David Clymer in 13th. Matthew Thompson in 14th. Edgar Sanchez finishes 15th, with Dunnington, Little and Blair rounding out your first page of results. Then it's Dunnington, Little, Blair, we've already been through this, of course, Brooks and Price at the top 20, with Estep, Bevel, Bork, Batista, Hosea, the top 25, with Andres Besnard, Arliss, Nickham, and Schultes, your top 30. Arliss, Nickham finishing a couple of laps down, with Schultes, Logan, Ott, and Snook all failing to finish this race. Your results then are complete. We'll go to your race winners in a moment. First of all, we'll drag in Mike Thompson Jr. Mike, welcome along to the stream. It was a superb race win today, your 2nd of the season. I make it. You won in round 7, according to my sheet. And, well, you're making up some ground in the championship as well. As a poor day for the championship leader.
Yep, trying to. It was a great race tonight. Belle Isle it's a tough track. Requires a lot of hard work to get around there consistently, and try to stay out of trouble. I made one small error and spun out, and I think in turn 4, but I was able to get it back going without damaging the car too bad. So good recovery.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you can't really complain. It's a race win after all. But this track was so attritional. This race was so attritional, I should say. We saw so many people getting crossed up, including Aero Nam. Actually, I don't know if you. I imagine you didn't see that, but yeah, Aero Nam got crossed up as as well, and almost lost the race win. But how did you sort of manage that?
Just basically just trying to remember my marks. I've been really working hard lately to remember the fundamentals. Just keep my eyes up, look ahead, hit your marks, and just be consistent. And something that my dad told me a long time ago was, You're going to end up where you're supposed to be." So I try to just race my race and not try to overextend.
And finally, is anyone you want to shout out on this broadcast before we let you go, Mike?
Yeah, if any of my family's watching, or maybe my wife, but overall, been working with a couple of the guys lately, some on some endurance racing. So some of those guys have had some good tips too. So another great race and great season with AMS again. So really great league, and can't wait to see how this shakes out.
Well, thank you very much, Mike, and hopefully we speak to you before the season ends.
Thank you.
It was Mike Thompson Jr., the winner in the amateur class, and now we'll drag in the winner in the pro class, Aero Nam. Aero, you made a mistake in the first stint, and for most of that first stint, actually, you were playing sort of second fiddle to Keith and Randall, but at the end of the day, your pit stops once again, pretty remarkable, and you got the race win in the end. Talk us through it.
Yeah, it was already lap one. Two corners to the end, I hit the curb. So that's cooked my rear tires, and that's why I was half spun in the second lap. Yeah, it was After that was 2 laps to get the tires back to the normal again. So it was pretty difficult.
And well, in terms of the championship now, it looks like it's one hand on the trophy. Really, you just need to have a good motorsport. How do you feel about that track?
Yeah, at least it's 2 20-minute races. I think
It is, yeah.
maybe you can pass there, but I don't know. Yeah, it's really difficult to pass again in the outside. But at least it's a long straight. So let's see. Have to get Collie again good. Like today, had really good outlap. So my tires were pretty good for first lap. That was already good for the pole. So yeah.
And finally, anyone you want to shout out on the broadcast before we let you go?
I like to thank all the sponsors, Randall, the admins, all the drivers there out. Lap traffic again was perfect today. No issues. The lead passed us, so it's hard enough to pass here. So, and I like to thank you there in the booth.
And thank you very much, Aero, for joining us, and we'll speak to you soon.
Yes, yeah.
That was Aero Nam. Potentially one hand on the trophy. We'll have to wait and see, of course. Now, let me just drag up this upcoming broadcast, which, I think is about right. In fact, no, it's not. It's totally not right. So ignore me completely. Unfortunately, we don't have. Throughout the course of this evening, we've got 2 more races to come from the American Muscle Series, and they're going to be absolute belters. Good night.
Not. So Patrick.
Do we describe this for everybody, Rob?
What?
You
What?
describe it. You describe it. I
What?
do enough talking.
Whatever. What? I think any car's dead in iRacing. I think it's gone.
Oh, it's definitely. I agree. It's not going to survive much, but like, I still think we'll find opportunities to race it, just not as fruitful as before. Some of them just want to like make. What's the thing? Like that guy wanted to make like dolls out of Tyler's hair, but then there's just other guys who are just like. He did. He would say weird things to Tyler, man. Like he was a strange guy, and then like other guys would just show up and nowhere. He's like, "Oh, we never met you? Sure, come race this 24 with us." And then you just jump in the car and wreck us out in a lap and be like, "Okay, never see you again."
Yeah, that
Like,
was
okay. Well, better luck next year, I guess.
that was the guy from